Let's define what the different proteins are. So, as Steph rightly said, we've got whey, we've got casein, we've got plant-based proteins. And on the plant-based protein side, obviously there's various forms. There's rice, there's pea, a whole lot of different ones that they use to make up plant-based protein powders. Whey is the liquid, the fluid part of dairy. The casein is the solid part of dairy. So if you had to take milk, for example, and you put some sort of acid into it, like lemon juice, you'll notice it curdles. The fluid portion, when powdered, becomes whey. The solid portion, when powdered, becomes casein.
I want to also just jump in here quickly, specifically about whey. Often people say to me, like, I don't want to take supplements, like I just want to do it naturally. Whey is 100% natural. The breast milk that you drank as a little kid, that's mostly whey. If you pick up a tin of S26 that you feed your baby, if you choose not to breastfeed, that's got a lot of whey in. Dairy made ice cream has got whey protein in it. So there's nothing sinister about whey. I don't even really classify it as a supplement. It is, in my mind, more a processed, convenient performance food. So it just kind of makes it easier for you to reach your protein target. You've got protein in the bottle instead of having to cook chicken breasts or having to eat a lot of brown rice and peas to actually make up your protein content for the day. Craig, let's specifically go into why or when is a good time to take whey protein?
Yeah, I think let's just expand on whey itself. As Steph rightly said, it's a performance food. So all whey protein is, all casein is, all plant-based proteins is simply powdered protein. It's a convenient way of getting your protein consumption up without relying on more chicken breasts, more beans. So basically whey is a performance food. Now you typically get 3 different types of whey. You get whey concentrate on the more affordable side, you've got whey isolate, which slots in the middle, and then you've got a really expensive something called whey hydrolysate, which is pre-digested whey. Me personally, for 80% of the public, whey concentrate is perfectly fine. It's actually my favorite part of whey. It's the least processed. In other words, it hasn't gone through as many filtration processes. And because of that, the immunoglobulins and other aspects of whey concentrate remains intact. But if you are somebody who's lactose intolerant and it causes gastric distress, whey isolate is a really good option. It goes through an extra stage of processing. Depending on whether that's a heat filtration or a cold filtration, will dictate whether those immunoglobulins are retained in the whey isolate. For the most part, a lot of companies are going to do some sort of heat filtration. It's cheaper, and you will lose the benefits of those immunoglobulins, but you will still retain the qualities of whey isolate, which is a really, really low lactose content, really, really low fat content, and a higher percentage of protein per serving. Where with whey concentrate, you've got around about 80%. With whey isolate, around about 90% of your serving size is going to be in the form of protein.
Why is whey so popular, and why do we use it so much in sport? And I would say it's largely because of the very high leucine content in a scoop of whey, Craig. And that is quite important for a process. I'm just gonna simplify it. Like you have a signal that tells cells to absorb protein, to build muscle, and leucine is the trigger for that. At our size, it's around about 2.7 to about 3 grams of leucine that you need to kickstart this process. And whey has a sufficient amount of leucine in it per serving, so that you don't have to supplement with a branched chain amino acids with that.
Yeah. Whey has a very high concentration of leucine compared to the casein and compared to plant-based protein. So it's got a much better amino acid profile. So it's not to say that the others are better or worse, it's a context based. To expand on what Stephan was saying, we've got something called muscle protein synthesis. These are spikes that tell your body to grow more muscle tissue. In terms of bodybuilding, in terms of power sports, in terms of actually any sport that requires some sort of muscular adaptation, having this at least 4 servings a day of 24 grams of protein, which is 15 grams of essential amino acids, and then breaks that down further into branch chain amino acids. Of the branch chain amino acids, we're looking for a 2.7 to 3.2 gram leucine content, which triggers optimally this muscle protein synthesis response. This can be done with food, it can be done with whey. Whey is just easy. You know, it's easy to grab a shake after a workout. It's easy to grab a shake if you train first thing in the morning at 5 o'clock. You wake up, it's easily digested. It doesn't sit in your stomach like a chicken breast or a couple of eggs would. So yeah, that's basically whey in a nutshell. It's a really good, easy to use performance food. There are health benefits to whey that extend past, which you cannot get in a natural form. And that's just the makeup of the way that they process the whey. It does offer some unique health benefits, but we're not going to expand onto that now. So we've covered whey concentrates, we've covered whey isolate and why you may or may not spend more on it. Then we get to whey hydrolysate, which is the most expensive. Now, this is a pre-digested protein. So its benefits are limited. Me personally, the only time that I would include whey hydrolysate, maybe in people doing multiple sessions a day, like a triathlete, for example, that's got an hour, 2-hour session in the morning, followed by a quick brief break, going into another session. This is the time where hydrolysate pre-digests really, really quickly and offers benefit. If your training, you as a person do not fall into that category, spending the extra on whey hydrolysate is a total waste of money. So I would stick to either whey concentrate, whey isolate in certain situations, and then again, whey hydrolysate in very few circumstances.
The next one up for discussion is casein protein. It's normally marketed as a slow release protein, a nighttime protein. Let's chat a little bit about that, Craig.
Casein, it's one of my favorites actually.
Just because it tastes good, Craig?
Yeah, it makes the best puddings, like really, really makes the best puddings. The thing with casein, as Steph rightly said, it's got a slower digestion rate. Basically what happens is when it enters the tummy, forms a gel, which slows down the gut motility. So if we had to take a comparison between whey consumed with nothing else, so no added fats or carbohydrates, just a whey shake, and we took a casein shake, the whey should go through the digestion process in around about 90 minutes, where casein will go through that digestion process over about 300 minutes. So, you know, that's one of the major differences between the two. Now, there are pros and cons, and there's a specific use for casein over whey and where it would be potentially more beneficial.
The fast release or slow release is basically due to casein, like Craig said, forming a gel. So the surface area of it is one solid surface that you can digest from. So you digest from the surface of something, and whereas whey is small little particles. So your surface area is a lot more, and that is why it gets broken down in your intestine a lot quicker, whereas casein will be a lot slower.
Like we're discussing now with the whey, with the amino acid profile and specifically the leucine content, this is where there's a bit of a shortfall with casein. It doesn't quite match whey's 2.7 to 3 grams per serving. It comes in around about 2 to 2.2 grams, so it falls a little bit short. Not a major issue if you're using casein as a mixed meal. So in other words, if you're mixing casein and you're having it as a pudding and there's other foodstuffs, even if you're adding it, and having it on the side, and you're having some rice and oats or whatever, obviously those proteins are obviously going to contribute to the leucine content and might raise it just enough that it's an optimal trigger. But that's it. Muscle growth in general is what we call nitrogen balance. It is the balance between muscle protein synthesis or growth and muscle protein breakdown. So if you achieve a balance of muscle protein synthesis and an equal muscle protein breakdown, your body will naturally stay the same. If what we want to achieve is a positive nitrogen balance, whereby there is more muscle protein synthesis than muscle protein breakdown, this is where casein is quite useful, especially if you've got extended periods between meals. So you're a rep, you've had your meal, or you're going to have you've only got time for a shake, and there's like 6 hours before your next meal, casein might be a really good idea. Because by the time it's digested, supplying the bloodstream with amino acids, it shortens that period after that, where the body now needs to break down its own muscle tissue to rebuild other muscle tissue. This muscle protein breakdown and muscle protein synthesis is a 24/7 thing. It's constantly going on in all areas of your body. The smooth muscle tissues of your heart, the stomach lining is constantly being rebuilt. So casein is a nice protein to have before bed, before going into an 8 to 10 hour fasting period. Do we have any research that having casein before bed increases hypertrophy? No, it seems to be the same regardless. But that said, it's a good idea. On top of it, as I say, it's great to use in puddings. I've got a lovely dessert that I use with cottage cheese and yogurt. And I use a lot of casein and blueberries, and I mix it up, and that's my last meal of the day, which is a real treat for me. It's a real treat for a lot of my clients who enjoy dairy.
Casein is also quite a bit nicer when you bake with it. Whey often dries out your pancakes and so on. Where something casein based is going to be a little bit fluffier if you want to make ice creams and so on.
Yeah.
It's also quite a bit nicer. And as Craig said, I often use it with my clients who are in a Ramadan fast as their last meal before that period where they won't be eating. It just helps to drip the amino acids into the bloodstream as they progress during the day.
Yeah. And generally for people that are in a calorie deficit, we don't like to drink our calories because there's so much limited food available to you to reach your goals. But in this instance, casein is a lot more filling as a shake. So, if you had to choose whey and you had to choose casein and you had to choose a shake to carry you over the next couple of hours hunger-wise, I would naturally steer towards casein because it's going to sit heavier, it's going to feel more satisfying for a longer period of time.
Plant-based proteins, that's an interesting topic, especially after the game changes. I think this is on everyone's lips.
Yeah, I've written about plant-based protein before in one of Chrome's articles. Plant-based protein, obviously there's a resurgence of going vegetarian, limiting animal products, and plant-based protein is a perfect way of doing it. One of the challenges of being vegan and one of the challenges of being vegetarian is optimal protein intake. Now, for the most part, you can get all the protein you need, all the essential amino acids you need over the period of a day and not really have to worry about supplementation in that regard as a vegan. And that'll be great for a general weight loss client or somebody just looking after their health. But if you are dealing with somebody that is wanting to develop their physique, is into sports, endurance, power sports, whatever, those protein demands go up. Being vegan, being vegetarian, your options are limited. Yes, there are good sources. There are pinto beans, black beans, quinoa. I never know how to pronounce quinoa. However, it's really, really snobbish, but it's whatever. So plant-based offers you this option in ways of increasing your protein content without radically increasing your carbohydrates and fat content. Because often sources of plant-based protein are not strictly protein. They come with a high carbohydrate content, they often come with a high fat content. Not a bad thing, but if you are trying to hit macros, you are trying to hit 24 grams of protein in this meal and a certain amount of leucine, doing that with black beans, you're going to be a tough ask.
You're also going to be very uncomfortable with all that extra fiber in your belly.
Yeah, and
so that's the challenge.
And then going past that is, there's a large portion of the population that is dairy intolerant. There is a portion of the population that cannot handle whey. People with IBS and certain other digestive issues. And plant-based offers a solution, an option for them. So a way of bumping up their protein, as we've discussed, in a way that doesn't upset their stomach. Plant-based proteins, they did suffer from a texture and a taste problem when they first started coming out. That seems to have improved. You rely a lot on vegan-based?
I like to mix mine up, so I have whey once or twice a day, and then I will have a vegan protein the second or the third meal. And it's drastically improved. You still have a bit of a texture. It's not as smooth as the whey would be, but it's becoming pleasant. It's becoming better, and I think the processing is getting better.
It's definitely improved.
Let's talk quickly about how to raise that leucine content to the point where it actually facilitates muscle protein synthesis. Would you just have a bigger scoop, higher volume, or would you add leucine to it?
You got to look at the practicality of it. So, for me to go and buy an extra tub of just leucine or just branch chain amino acids to add,
1 gram.
Not even a gram,
Yeah.
is pointless to me. So, in general, if I'm using casein or if I'm using a plant-based protein, and if that brand has not included this already and the leucine content is less than optimal, I generally use it in a mixed meal application. Like we discussed the dessert, adding some other substrate into it, has its own amino acids which will come with it, which naturally will raise the leucine that little bit that is needed. Otherwise, quite rightfully, as Steph said, simply just increase the portion size. So what was a 30-gram serving, make 35, maybe make 40 grams for that meal. And you've basically done the same thing. Just to touch the base on protein powders in general. In the past, it's one of the dirty parts of supplementation. There are things like amino acid spiking, branch chain amino acid spiking, ways of providing less whey, less protein for cost purposes, and including certain amino acids to try and raise the protein content. So when they do a nitrogen test, it's showing 24 grams of protein. But in reality, you probably maybe getting 12 or 15 grams, and they've just added some really cheap branch chain amino acids or some taurine or lysine to it to bump up those figures. So when purchasing protein powders, be sure of your brand, be sure it's got a good reputation. So as you can see, there's many forms, there's many brands. These are two forms of the plant-based protein. This one, for example, is pure pea protein. Pea protein tends to have more branch chain amino acids than any other form of plant-based proteins, where this one here is more a mix. Like this one, you've got pea, you've got brown rice, so they've mixed it up a little bit with this one. So there are many different versions that you can go for, you can try out. Look at the values that are on there. Does it meet the requirements per serving? Do you have to increase the serving size? That's obviously going to be an option in your purchasing. Nobody wants something that says 60 servings and you end up getting 40.
And here's a option for your casein. your protein that we recommend that you take at night time or before a fast and so on. All three of these are available at Chrome Online or at your Chrome shop. Go get them.